As a child, Henry was constantly harassed by other children. When some boys broke his favorite toy, his father called Henry a weakling. In the present, adult Henry wakes up inside a water tank with absolute amnesia. Estelle drains the tank and tells him his name before explaining that the amnesia and his loss of speech are normal. Henry then notices that he's missing half his left arm and leg, but Estelle gives him some advanced prosthetics to replace them. A machine welds the connection and Estelle puts a fruit on his new hand, which he easily squeezes. Then Estelle reveals that she and Henry are married, but he was never a fan of her work. Henry is given some clothes and his old wedding ring as Estelle tells him I love you. He's taken to another room where two other scientists help Estelle connect Henry to a different machine so they can give him a new voice. Unfortunately, the process is interrupted when the computer announces a security breach. Suddenly the door is blown off, killing one of the scientists. Then a group of mercenaries bursts into the room and shoots all the machines before keeping the group frozen at gunpoint. Mercenary leader Akan comes in and reveals he was the one who brought Henry's body to this lab. While touching Estelle inappropriately, Akan makes the other scientists describe Henry's state when he arrived. Not only was he missing limbs, his skull was dented, his eyes were missing, and the bottom of his jaw was destroyed. This means Henry's original human body was rebuilt as a cyborg. Suddenly Akan uses his psychokinetic power to make the scientist float up and slashes him several times with a blade to kill him. Estelle takes the chance to play very loud music on the speakers, which startles the enemies and gives her an opening to run with Henry to the other lab. Then Estelle pulls off a floor tile and the duo descends into the vents to escape. Eventually they reach a dark area where Estelle makes Henry kick the vent cover, letting them emerge into a freezer full of bodies. Estelle explains that if Akan steals her work, these bodies will be brought back from the dead to form his army. The duo reaches a hallway and Henry rushes to the emergency exit, but when he opens it he discovers they're on an aircraft. He manages to hold on to the door to avoid falling and Estelle has to bring him back inside. They take a ladder to a dock with two pods, only to discover that the scientist is escaping in one of them. Estelle forces Henry to take the other pod but he convinces her to come with him. The pod falls through the clouds at frightening speed, so by the time they open the parachute they're going too fast. The pod crashes on a bridge and Estelle gets hurt. Henry picks her up before trying to run away, but they're quickly surrounded by the mercenaries. Estelle asks Henry to fight them and he does manage to punch a few guys, but Yuri hits him before pushing him so a car can run him over. While the mercenaries capture Estelle, Yuri chases Henry and throws him off the bridge, causing him to land on a car and break some streetlights. The car's alarm gets the attention of a cop, so Henry rushes to hide. Soon the mercenaries arrive and kill the officer with 2 shots. Henry crawls under the cars until he has an opening to run into a container, where he breaks off a car's windshield wiper. When a mercenary enters the container, Henry stabs him until the man drops dead and steals his gun. The other mercenaries open fire from outside, so Henry takes cover and waits until they stop. Then he starts the car's engine and uses a bat to keep the accelerator pressed, so the vehicle comes out of the container to distract the mercenaries. Henry also runs out and shoots a few men before he starts running to look for a vehicle he can use, however he's run over by a car. Suddenly another vehicle crashes into that car, which frees Henry. The driver is Jimmy, who quickly shoots down the mercenaries and says he's here to help Henry. He knows that he's a cyborg and mentions waiting for this moment for 3 years. They leave together in Jimmy's car and Henry is given a device to connect to his chest. A quick scan reveals he only has 30 minutes left of life, so Jimmy is taking him to his lab to recharge. Unfortunately they're pulled over by corrupted cops who try to shoot Henry. Jimmy moves the weapon just in time and hits the cop as the car takes off, also hitting the police car on their way. The other officer immediately follows them and kills Jimmy with a shot to the head. The car crashes, and Henry falls unconscious for a few seconds. When he wakes up, civilians are surrounding the car. As soon as he gets out, the cop opens fire again, so Henry starts running until he reaches an avenue. He takes the underpass and ignores all the weird looks to hide inside a store. There he changes into some clean clothes while the clerk stares at him awkwardly. At that moment the cop finds him, so Henry kicks the door on his face. A second officer soon arrives and Henry fights them both, hitting them a few times before stealing a gun to kill them. Then he runs to the nearest stairs and finds even more cops, so he takes a different exit. 2 mothers block this one, but he still escapes by jumping over the railing. As soon as he reaches the street, Henry gets on the bus. A hobo suddenly grabs his arm and Henry tries to push him off, so the guy reveals he's Jimmy. Using pliers, he pulls a tracker out of Henry's wrist, explaining that the enemies were using it to follow him. Jimmy destroys the tracker and gives him a phone with a map to find a guy named Dimitri, who usually handles all of the can's equipment. Henry must rip off Dimitri's charge pump and bring it to Jimmy so he can replace his. At that moment Jimmy notices a person with a strange jacket on the street. He opens the window to ask him where he got it and the guy sets him on fire with a flamethrower. Some of the flames spread on Henry too, so he breaks a window to escape and takes a person's water bottle to save himself. Soon Jimmy also walks out and Henry tries to put the flames out with his jacket to no avail. When Jimmy drops dead, Henry takes his gun and opens fire at the flamethrower man, but the shots fail and the guy shoots fire at him again. Henry begins running and sees some people swimming in their underwear, so he steals their clothes. A witness notices this and tries to call him out, but Jimmy punches him and runs again because the swimmers are coming after him. Moments later, Henry reaches Dimitri's home and finds a mercenary outside. A guard approaches him but only asks him for a lighter before sending him away. Henry walks around the block and climbs a wall, always keeping an eye on the mercenaries until he finds a window. After ignoring some civilians, Henry reaches the hallway and finds more thugs. He carefully sneaks around until he reaches the elevator. When it opens, he ends up face to face with 3 mercenaries, so he quickly shoots 2 before going in. He captures the third one by grabbing his nose with the pliers and keeps him as a hostage as they make their way to Dimitri's place. In the next hallway, more mercenaries appear, but Henry continues to kill them all with accurate shots until he finds the right apartment. He opens it using a dead guard's keycard and shoots one last thug before going inside. There's a room full of computer servers and another with Dimitri at his desk. Henry kicks the chair until it falls, yet Dimitri doesn't move. Suddenly a big screen activates to play a video of Estelle saying that a can has already started, so he'll have his army soon. At that moment Dimitri punches Henry, who pulls at some cables to electrocute him in return. Then both men open fire, destroying the apartment as they move around. Dimitri climbs out the window to escape and Henry tries shooting him, but he's out of bullets, so he has no choice but to jump out to go after him. Dimitri calls him half machine half weakling before jumping off the roof using a rope. Henry immediately follows him and lands in the trash. A chase ensues and the men parkour all over the city, not letting any obstacle stop them. They even climb the top of a bridge and slide down the escalators, knocking down civilians on the way. Eventually Henry steals a bottle and throws it at Dimitri's head, causing him to crash into a painting stand. The men then start punching each other while the crowd records everything. Henry easily overpowers Dimitri, who decides to offer him information. Unfortunately, someone shoots Dimitri in the head before he can talk. As the crowd runs in panic, Henry takes cover from the mercenaries' fire. He decides to bring Dimitri's body closer and rip out the charging pump. Now he can run away as well. Soon he gets a call from Jimmy, who sends him his location. Moments later Henry arrives at a very fancy house and a guard takes him downstairs, where he finds a naughty club and crazy Jimmy having fun with several women at the same time. As the cyborg body begins to fail, Henry collapses, so Jimmy rushes to install the pump. However, he realizes that he can't do this and leaves without helping. The naughty workers surround Henry and start touching him to make him feel better, which causes him to imagine getting dirty with Estelle. The moment is interrupted by nerdy Jimmy, who finally replaces Henry's pump and gets him working again. This Jimmy explains that he also wants revenge on a can and tries to take Henry to his lab, but at that moment a phone call warns them that the mercenaries have arrived. A terrified Jimmy apologizes to Henry and runs away. Nearby, crazy Jimmy consumes a bunch of illegal sugar to get in the right mood and leaves the room to confront the mercenaries. After grabbing some guns from a drawer, Henry leaves through the back door and starts hearing gunshots followed by the women screaming. When he encounters any mercenaries, he kills them all and continues to move until he reaches the club. Chaos is everywhere as they all shoot each other and Henry ends up behind the bar with crazy Jimmy, who keeps consuming illegal sugar. Once he's re-energized, Jimmy stands on top of the bar and shoots down mercenaries while telling Henry to run. More and more thugs are killed as Henry makes his way out and a dominatrix ends up helping him by fighting with a katana while her partner also opens fire. Looking for the exit, Henry accidentally enters a room and finds a can and a client begging for his life. A Ken uses his power to impale a tray on the guy's head, then he knocks Henry down. He also throws a dirty worker at him, so the woman takes the chance to run away. When Henry tries to attack a Ken, the power stops him and he receives a table to the face. A Ken reveals he is Estelle in his truck before throwing Henry into the vent, followed by the crazy Jimmy's body. They slide through the vents until they fall through a cover to land in the parking lot. Then Henry notices that his arm is dislocated, but he easily puts it back in place by grabbing a wall. There are many dead bodies around, so he picks up a gun before searching the area until he finds hippie Jimmy. Together they torture a mercenary, who tells them that Estelle is being taken to a Can's base. At that moment the dominatrices surround Jimmy to complain about what happened to their club. Jimmy tells them that they're going after a Can, so the women decide to come along on their fights. He has a bike of his own and Henry joins him on the sidecar. Moments later they find a Can's convoy on the road and Henry immediately shoots the first van, causing it to explode. When he shoots the second one, a guard falls off and Jimmy guides the bike into the vehicle. They kill every person inside and come out by bursting through the front. A mercenary holds onto the gun to tag along, but Henry shoots him too. Next, Henry jumps on top of the next van and kills more guys while Jimmy's bike is shot off the road. Henry throws a grenade inside the van and the resulting explosion throws him off, but he lands on a dominatrix's bike. He takes her gun and opens fire until he kills the driver, causing the van to crash into the bike. The woman is killed and Henry is thrown off, but he manages to hold on to the truck just in time. When the van tries to run over him, he keeps his body between the wheels, then he climbs on it again to kick the mercenaries until they lose control of the vehicle. The van ends up crashing into a civilian car. Afterward, Henry climbs on top of the truck and kicks the fan until it breaks to let him in. Then he kills 2 scientists in just a few seconds. Estelle is inside a glass cell, which Henry easily breaks to rescue her. She cries and tells him she loves him, but before they can kiss, a Ken appears on the screen. He gives an order to make a truck explode before he and Yuri come inside. Yuri punches Henry several times in revenge before taking Estelle hostage. When Henry tries to rescue her, a Ken threatens to kill her. Henry has no choice but to let a Ken hit him with a bat and throw him off the truck. Moments later, the mercenaries are burying Henry in the forest. At that moment, Jimmy and the surviving dominatrix open fire to kill them all. Then Jimmy uses a device to reboot Henry, which takes around 15 minutes. When Henry wakes up, Jimmy and the woman are kissing. The group tries to leave together, but unfortunately the mercenaries attack again. Jimmy is killed by an explosion while the dominatrix is killed by falling debris. Henry runs away as fast as possible only to find the path blocked by a tank. When it opens fire, Henry jumps high to hold on to a tree branch, then he waits until the tank comes closer to land on top of him. He quickly kills the person handling the cannon and moves inside to kill the driver too. Nearby, a helicopter drops off more mercenaries, so Henry steals more weapons and rushes to kill them all pretty fast. Next, he climbs the helicopter rope and shoots one more thug before his partner cuts the rope. Henry immediately falls and lands on a bush. While the chopper flies away, Jimmy sends him a new location. After failing to ride a horse, Henry crosses the forest on foot until he's startled by camouflage Jimmy coming out of hiding. Together they go to an abandoned building and find a police car outside. They rush inside to discover some cops taking advantage of a woman. Jimmy asks Henry to ignore them to avoid endangering his lab, but Henry grabs a rock and confronts the officers anyway. With just a few moves he brings down 2 men, then he grabs the last one by the groin and squeezes to break his member. Since this cop had wanted the woman to use her mouth, Henry punishes him by making him swallow his baton. The other 2 cops want to fight him again, however they're shot by Jimmy. Afterward, the duo takes the elevator to the last floor and Jimmy says a password to make a wall open. Inside they find an advanced lab. On a screen, old footage reveals that Jimmy made 9 cyborg soldiers for a Ken. He entered their room for a demonstration. As soon as he activated them, the soldiers lost control and started to beat Jimmy up. He begged for help until a Ken used his power to throw the soldiers back. Then a Ken broke Jimmy's spine for his failure while Yuri killed the soldiers. Now the real Jimmy shows up in a wheelchair and explains that all the other Jimmys are his avatars, which he controls with a special helmet. He puts it on and nerdy Jimmy joins them. He connects Henry to a computer to confirm his systems are working well. Then the real Henry shows off his avatars, who each represent a different aspect of his personality. They're interrupted by the computer alerting them that there's something wrong with Henry. Punk Jimmy makes him sit down for a checkup only to strap his hands as he calls him a traitor. When Punk Jimmy says he'll shut him down, Henry immediately kicks him. Then he kicks a machine to bring it down and spits on the broken circuit to cause a short that frees him from the chair. Now he has to fight all the Jimmys, who can't do much against a powerful cyborg like him. Henry brings down the clones one by one and then points a gun at the real one, but suddenly a rickety body falls through the ceiling. And Jimmy calls it Proto Baby and points the gun at Henry until he puts it down. Then Jimmy uses the computer to reveal that Henry has been broadcasting his location to a Ken all along. Henry tries to explain he didn't know, but he's interrupted by the alarm announcing that the mercenaries are coming. This distraction allows Henry to shoot the clone, so the real Jimmy asks him to end things for him since he can't live like a cripple anymore. Henry slaps him to calm them down and real Jimmy agrees to work together. He brings back camouflage Jimmy, who starts setting up bombs so the mercenaries can't have his lab. After grabbing weapons, they both rush to the roof. When the convoy finally arrives, they start shooting the mercenaries down. Soon camouflage Jimmy collapses so Punk Jimmy can go out to fight the enemy hand to hand. Henry provides cover, but unfortunately Punk Jimmy is killed by an explosion, so his consciousness returns to camouflage Jimmy, who jumps off with a grenade. Henry runs back inside and Colonel Jimmy gives him new weapons. They send Jimmy's real body and the nerdy clone down on the elevator before rushing to the stairs to start fighting all the mercenaries breaking in. Always keeping an eye on the elevator, Henry goes down floor to floor, killing every man who dares to get in his way. It's an absolute bloody massacre. In the lobby, Colonel Jimmy and Henry kill the last few guys before getting the real Jimmy out of the elevator. At that moment Yuri surrounds them with backup, so Jimmy presses a button to activate the lab bombs. The explosion distracts the enemy and creates a dust cloud that allows the heroes to escape. Using a stolen enemy van, the group returns to the city. Mercenaries keep appearing left and right, but the duo works amazingly well together and kills them all. Eventually they reach Akan's headquarters and go inside to find a bunch of bodies on the floor, which means Akan is already preparing his new cyborg soldiers. Suddenly the funny jacket man attacks them with a flamethrower. Henry dodges the fire and jumps on him to beat him up while Jimmy shoots the guards that are now surrounding them. After some struggle, Henry kills the thug with a few hits to the head. The group then takes a quarter and Jimmy changes clones, so the nerdy one tries to buy them some time. Sadly he's immediately shot down. Henry steals a guard shield to protect the group from gunshots and they manage to get away in the elevator. As they go up, Henry realizes that Jimmy has been injured. Jimmy confesses he knew that Henry had a memory block and didn't take it out because he wanted him to help him with his revenge. He now uses a device to remove that block and the clone thanks him for being his friend before dropping dead. The real Jimmy wakes up and tells Henry that his memories will return little by little before he dies too. Afterward, Henry leaves the elevator and kills dozens of mercenaries until he finds a big screen playing a video. It reveals that Estelle has been working for Akan all along and tells every cyborg that she's their wife. At that moment, Akan appears in the room and disarms Henry with his power before ordering a new cyborg to defeat him. A vicious fight begins and both men cause terrible damage to each other. After some struggle, Henry manages to smash the cyborg's head on the floor to kill him. The rest of the cyborgs appear on the other side of the door, so Henry locks it. Then he opens the dead guy's chest and removes the pump to replace his own. As the cyborgs break the door, Henry takes the stairs to the roof only for Akan to bring him down with his power. The cyborgs surround Henry and a new fight begins. Henry climbs on different structures to lower the number of enemies he has to fight at the same time and throws a few off the roof as well. Next, he climbs on an antenna and kills a few cyborgs that try to follow him before he makes the antenna collapse. The battle continues and Henry finds a screwdriver, which he uses to kill faster. He also pushes the cyborgs against different machines to electrocute them. When he has an opening, Henry runs to hide in an office and blocks the door with a desk. There are weapons here, so he uses them to shoot the cyborgs through the windows. The gunshots are never enough, so Henry decides to let them all in and throws a box of grenades before jumping through the glass. The huge explosion kills most of the cyborgs and leaves the survivors in an awful state. Henry finds a first aid kit and injects himself with some adrenaline so he can keep fighting. With fewer enemies around, he can take his time to give them all gruesome deaths, like burning them or throwing them at fans. Once all the cyborgs are finally dead, Akan freezes Henry with his power and makes him hit himself before knocking him out. Seconds later, he wakes up to find Estelle kissing Akan, who is her real husband. It's revealed that Henry has been their experiment all along. By making him believe Estelle was his wife, Henry wouldn't rebel like the old cyborgs and instead he'd do anything to save her, including terrorist acts. Akan kisses Henry to thank him for finally being the cyborg who obeys, and he plans to build thousands like him. When Akan kicks Henry, he activates a childhood memory. His father didn't call him a weakling, he was explaining that his grandfather called him that. He wanted to be a better father for Henry and gave him a choice to stand up for himself. In the present, a helicopter is approaching the building. Henry wraps wire around his hand and takes Akan to split his hand in half. Akan throws him back with his power and all the bodies start floating around them. Henry uses them as steps to reach Akan and repeatedly punches him. Then he wraps his own eye muscles around Akan's face to cut it in two. Akan's body falls and is destroyed by the chopper's blades. After putting his eye back on, Henry grabs Akan's head and jumps to board the helicopter, which is about to leave with Estelle. When he shows her the head, she furiously begins shooting, wondering how he can do this to her. Henry writes easy in blood. Estelle tries to shoot him again, but the bullet ricochets off his wire and hits her instead, causing her to slide off the plane. She holds on to the edge and begs for help, but Henry closes the door to make her fall.